Hey guys, welcome back. So now continuing with more talks on the Batman Who Laughs, who is truly one of Scott Snyder's greatest creations. And really everything he's done with the Batman character, period, as soon as he touches it, it turns to gold. But continuing this new playlist, which is pretty much everything Batman Who Laughs, I want to dive a bit into the new 6-part miniseries that shows us a few of the cards that the Batman Who Laughs has had up his sleeve this whole time. And not to mention a card that was definitely shoved up Batman's sleeve, with the addition of others that we may see later on. But if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week, and don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so recently on this playlist, we've talked about the Batman Who Laughs and some of his new plans that he's been executing left and right throughout DC Rebirth. And one of the main examples recently will be him offering his assistance to the Infinite Woman in recent issues of Immortal Men, seemingly in order to help her win this war, which she started like thousands of years ago. But really and truly, it's just him piecing together parts of his own plan. And this tactic of his is nothing new. We've seen him do this from day one, and even though it seemed like initially in Dark Knight's Metal that he was only executing the orders of Barbatos, throughout the course of Dark Knight's Metal, and even though at the time we knew exactly what his endgame was, we also got that mixed in with a lot of things that he would just do, even as an experiment for his own curiosity and a means for gathering knowledge, or a means for gathering resources that he would use later. And some things were just straight up wicked, but in most cases he had a reason for doing everything he was doing, even though we wouldn't always get the immediate answer to just why. But just as a quick reminder, earlier on the playlist when we were talking about his appearance in Immortal Men, when he gave the Infinite Woman instructions on how to defeat the Immortal Man, and he told her throughout the Dark Multiverse, as he traveled throughout the Dark Multiverse, he had encountered many like them. He had slain many of the Immortal Men himself, and most of which was probably trial and error, I'd assume. But this conversation was one of the things that showed us that this Batman Who Laughs is very much a detective and a gatherer of information, which essentially is who Batman is at his core. But this guy, with the Joker toxin, once you add that, you take away some of the restraints that Batman may use, and then you blur, if not eradicate, any lines that he won't cross. But going forward, we catch up with Batman, who's chasing down these guys who have been smuggling contraband outside of Gotham by hiding it in like the historical houses that they move in order to put condos where they were. But they've pretty much been using this method also to dispose of bodies that have been unidentified in the morgue that would otherwise tie back to different crimes that happen in Gotham. But Batman's not going to let that happen, because to him, these are the people who he's failed to protect. And of course, there's that logic of you can't save everybody, but for the ones who do fall to casualty, if you can at least retrieve their bodies, get them back to their loved ones so that they can have a proper burial, in addition to giving whatever leads that are needed to the authorities, then in that case, their death won't be in vain. But where Batman stops these guys just before the bridge of leaving Gotham, he opens up one of the caskets, and inside he sees himself. And it's really trippy because the DNA matches Bruce Wayne, and his cause of death is unknown, but as far as his pre-existing scars, everything is consistent all the way up to the past few years, and more precisely up until the time that Bane broke Batman's back, which pretty much means whoever this Bruce Wayne is, in whatever alternate universe he's from, after Bane had broke his back, he never went back to being Batman, but rather he went on to marry Selina Kyle. They had a daughter which they named May, and this Bruce knows when he sees the tattoo on the deceased Bruce Wayne, which is a tattoo of the name that he would have gave his daughter, that this is a version of himself that had found happiness at least for the past 2 or 3 years. And I mean, he had smile lines on his eyes just from smiling so much, but he had reached a place in his life where he had found peace and hung up his cape and cowl, which is pretty crazy because it shows the real Bruce Wayne what his life could have been like had he made one different decision. But upon discovering this body and doing pretty much his own autopsy, while in disguise of a coroner and relaying the information to Alfred, together they come to the conclusion that they need to go see the Joker in Arkham Asylum. And so next, where we see Arkham Asylum, we see Batman arrive at Arkham Asylum. The security guards on one hand are like, how did you get in here, Batman? But on the second hand, they're like, hey, it's Batman, which answers how he got in there, but he straight kills them. But not too long after, once we get a better look and we see the guns and he kills a few more guards, but it's here we come to find out that this isn't Batman. Not quite exactly. And we'll get more into that in just a little bit, because we're not given a lot of information within the issue, which I'm sure will be cleared up by the end of the miniseries. But for now, what we know is he's a version of Batman that's clearing a path to the Joker's cell in Arkham. And when he gets there, the Joker is like, okay, so you've come to kill me. Like, that's gotta be the reason why you're here. And this Batman just looks at him for a minute, he says no, and he steps aside. And that's when we see the Batman Who Laughs, who comes in behind him like, oh, that's what I'm here for. In just a few words into begging for his life, the Batman Who Laughs straight up splits his wig. And when this happens, it's like a number of things are out of whack. Because for one, the Joker doesn't want anyone to kill him but Batman, which is how it has been for a number of years. And going into Dark Knight's Metal, where we got the origin of the Batman Who Laughs, we actually got to see it play out, the reason why. And over the years, it's been a number of different explanations, whether it was the Joker just wanting to teach Batman a lesson, but from the New 52 through DC Rebirth, but more so laid out clear as day in Dark Knight's Metal, which takes place in Rebirth, we see that the Batman Who Laughs is literally the same Bruce from the Dark Multiverse who made one different decision, but all the variables around his decision are the same as in the main continuity, and as a result, it means that the Batman here has the same opportunity to become any of these other versions, to either match or exceed them by becoming similar to them or even making a similar decision. And for that reason, if this Batman had decided to kill the Joker, then he would have became that same Nightmare Batman, because all the variables are the same, which includes everything down to the Joker toxin if Batman were to commit and make that decision. But moments later, when Batman meets up with Commissioner Gordon at GCPD, he starts to fill in Commissioner Gordon on who the Batman Who Laughs is. And this conversation reminds me a lot of much of the comments on the last video where we talked about the Batman Who Laughs and people saying that he was a version of the Joker, when in actuality, Batman even confirms here that he's not the Joker. He's not a combination, but he is Batman. And much like I mentioned before with past renditions of the Joker either wanting to teach a lesson or open Batman's eyes to a particular perspective, the Batman Who Laughs, on the contrary, his motivations lay true to what Batman is true to. And those are the ideals that Batman always wins. He makes provisions, hint hint. He does his research, and his mind is his most dangerous weapon. And this is only to the limitations of what he will and won't do as far as his morals. But when you add the Joker toxin, you remove those morals, creating someone who is dangerously unpredictable like the Batman Who Laughs. And this is one of the points that we had seen proven back when we talked about the origin of the Batman Who Laughs. Like back when we were still trying to figure out who was in that chair. But it was back then when the Batman Who Laughs was talking to the Monitor, and not only did he explain how dangerous he was by being the embodiment of certain cards on the table, when put together no one can beat, but also telling the Monitor, along with illustrating some of his tactics, but telling the Monitor a Batman Who Laughs is a Batman who wins. But in concluding with the conversation with Commissioner Gordon, we get our confirmation that the Joker that was killed in Arkham Asylum wasn't actually the Joker, but instead, days before this had happened, the real Joker had slipped out and moved this replacement in his spot. And you can kind of tell because the guy really got out of character once he found out he was finna die. It's like he figured, well, I'll stand in for the Joker, but I ain't getting paid enough to die. But after leaving Commissioner Gordon, Batman looked into the identity of the stand-in Joker, who prior to had a number of different names, and each one played into a type of clue of where him and Batman would possibly meet. And Batman looked into this because he knew somehow, some way, he needed the Joker's help, which were actually his last words to Commissioner Gordon, not saying that he was getting help from the Joker specifically, but leaving Gordon saying he needed help as he went along to begin his investigation. But after doing that investigation and looking into the different names of this Joker fall guy, it came down to a question of where was the Joker happiest, and it's kind of given in the question of where was he the happiest and where will he be the happiest. And it was at that moment it dawned on him. He returned to the Batcave, where he tells Alfred to let down the waterway security systems, which Alfred argues that they shouldn't, but when he does, in comes the Joker. And when he gets there, initially Batman tells him that he'll be safe, but in response he's like, I don't want to be safe, and you don't either. And he comes out the water and pulls out a gun that is rigged to shoot himself in the heart, which is a couple things in one, because one is the answer to all the different clues of the different aliases of the sit-in Joker that gave hints to where he would want to be the happiest, which also fed into the ultimate lesson that he'd been wanting to show Batman that also could only be done at his time of death. And when the Joker does this and Batman goes to grab him, his last words are the only way you can beat him is to become him. And it's then when Batman realizes that he has taken in the toxin from the heart of the Joker, becoming himself the Batman Who Laughs. Man, I gotta say, like, when I woke up this morning and read this, like, my first words was like, just say it ain't so. Say it ain't so, Plucky. But yes, Batman has been infected with the Joker toxin, and who knows what to expect from here. But seeing this, in my opinion, it was very much a callback to Metal, which gave us a number of recent reminders of the Joker knowing where Batman's Batcave was, but even bigger than that, it gave us a team up of Batman and the Joker versus the Batman Who Laughs, which I believe was just one moment out of many when the Joker began to realize what truly needed to be done in order to stop the Batman Who Laughs. Because at the end of that fight, they both literally fought till the house came down on the both of them. But as I was saying earlier, and getting back to this other Batman, who's earned the name the Grim Knight, and when he broke into Arkham, he nearly killed Victor Fries, like he nearly burned him to death, which also isn't a good look for the real Batman, who nearly beat Victor Fries to death. And it's kind of like, dang, Victor Fries, you don't get no love from no Batman, nowhere, never. But for his character, who's created by Scott Snyder and whose origin we're getting by way of James Tynion, whose origin we have yet to see, but what we know from their comments, he is yet another version of Batman who was changed from one different decision. And that decision he made immediately after his parents were killed, he picked up the gun that Joe Chill used to kill them and used it to murder Joe Chill. And that was his one decision, which was different, which changed his life from there moving forward. But that'll do it for this one, guys. We're definitely going to revisit and pick apart much of this, because with all the different renditions of Batman that we get, that are a result of him making one choice, just one different choice, I really can't wait to see how this pans out. Because even though we have the same ingredients of Batman who's been exposed to the Joker toxin, which is what happened in the Dark Multiverse and gave us the Batman Who Laughs, this time is different, because this time when it happened, Batman didn't choose this, but rather this was a decision that was thrusted upon him. And I truly believe for that reason that we're gonna get a much different Batman Who Laughs, and just ahead of time, I'm gonna call him the Batman Who Laughs last, because I believe with him making it this far, deciding not to kill the Joker, that having that level of discipline is just gonna make him a completely different monster. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and we'll do it again in the next one. Alright, later.